A 3D mode text created. We've put the effector on it so that we can reveal it, and we've created a physical sky just under our create physical sky settings. So now I'm going to set up a camera, and a camera is going to be really important because what we've got here is a virtual 3D world. We've built some stuff in it, and we have to be like a virtual cameraman. We want to control what we're seeing exactly the same way we would shoot a movie in the real world. So we want a camera for this. So under my create menu, I've got a cameras menu, and there's a whole bunch of different types of cameras. I just want a plain old camera. So I'm going to hit create camera, camera. Now when you create a camera, it appears in the 3D scene right where we're currently looking at the moment. So in this perspective view, if I option and right click to zoom out, I actually kind of fly out of that camera. And I can see here it is in 3D space. It's got a nice little camera icon, easy to identify. So there's that camera that I just made. When we're shooting with a virtual camera in Cinema4D, obviously we want to look through that camera so we can see where it's pointing. The way that we do that is we click the little wee target icon just to the side of the camera name. It's black by default, which means we're not looking through it. If we click that little black icon, we're now looking through that camera. Once you're looking through that camera, your option and your 3 mouse button moves that you do is actually moving the camera around. We're inside and we're driving that camera. So now that I'm inside this camera, as I use my buttons, I am shifting that camera around, and I can tell that because if I jump out of my camera again, if I hit that little wee crosshairs icon, I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, looks like crosshairs. If we jump out of that, I can see, yep, there's my camera, it's moved to where I was before. So that's how we position a camera. We put ourselves inside it, and we drive it around. Okay, so cameras, if you're a photography person, the cameras that are in the virtual world here, they're set up as close as possible to real cameras with the same sorts of settings on them. So the most obvious one that we'd probably play around with is the focal length of the camera. So if you select your camera and have a look down at its object attributes, we've got a focal length. So there's some presets for different types of lenses, and if we change those, obviously we either zoom in or we kind of zoom out, depending on whether these are wide or narrow angle lenses. You can choose obviously a custom lens size, or focal length I should say, just by clicking and dragging on that value there. Now for my MoText animation, I want my MoText to be quite big and impressive looking and quite dominant in my animation. So I'm going to choose quite a wide angled lens because that really accentuates size and accentuates depth, makes it more dramatic looking. Photographers, you'll probably tell me I'm wrong or tell me better descriptions of what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm going to choose a wide angle lens. It looks more dramatic. It emphasizes the depth in this. I'm also going to move my camera a little closer to my text, and I'm going to compose or frame my text so that it's pretty much in the middle of my shot. Now this is up to you how you want to frame your text. You might want to think about using rule of thirds or any other compositional tricks that you might know. It's a pretty simple object. There's not too much you can really do with it. But I'm just going to make mine look quite big and imposing by having a wide angle lens and by positioning my camera low. When you put your camera low, things look big and imposing. So that's how I've got my camera positioned. So that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that, and I like that position. Now, there's one more thing I'm going to do now, which is really important if you're dealing with static cameras in 3D. Now that I've set up the shot and I like it, I want my camera to stay there and I don't want it to move. It's really easy to accidentally move a camera in 3D. So I want to protect its position. I want to lock it to where it is now. The way that we do that is we use a thing called a tag. A tag in Cinema4D is an effect. I don't know why they're called tags, they're just called tags. But they're basically effects, they're functions that we add to any object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a protection tag to this camera that locks it in place. So my camera's positioned, I've got it selected up here in my object list. I'm going to go to Tags, Cinema4D Tags, and just after halfway down that list there's one called Protection. I'm going to select that. Now when I click on that little protection tag, it's got a little wee circle with a bar through it icon. What it shows me in its attributes is that it's locked the position, the scale and the rotation of that object. Okay, so that's really handy. If I look through this view now, I'm looking through my camera, I'm inside my camera. If I use my option and my 3 mouse buttons, nothing happens. I can't move the camera, it's locked, it's protected, I'm not going to mess up its position. So that's awesome, that's great. So I can jump out of my camera now by clicking the little wee icon, the little white icon, so that takes me out of the camera. Now I can navigate around in my perspective view as normal. I can see my camera is there, and if I select it, I can't move it. Okay, it's locked. So that's excellent. That's great. So we've created a camera, we've positioned it, and we've locked it using this protection tag. Super handy.
How do we delete that?
Select the tag just by clicking on it, hit delete, and you can delete it if you want to. Okay, so that's setting up a camera and putting a protection tag on it. That's a really important thing to do, especially again if you're reasonably new to 3D, because it's so easy to position a camera really carefully and then without thinking just go, okay, I'll go and look over here now, and then you've shifted your camera. So it's a smart thing to do to chuck these protection tags on any objects that you don't want to move them.